Canada brought in over 1 million newcomers last year. That's more than the population of Nova Scotia. We have a growing housing crisis. Our healthcare system is already being pushed to its brink. And for the people that actually do come here, do we even have a healthy job market for them? With that supply of workers, it's certainly going to drive wages down. And we already are seeing a lot of Canadians leaving this country because of the cost of living and the declining quality of life. No one in the House of Commons seems to be willing to talk about this issue of mass migration and how it affects the rest of society. But my guest tonight, Maxime Bernier, will. And the conversation starts now.
I promise you, I will not let you down.
The trucks parked outside illegally should move.
Canada's Conservatives will meet our Paris climate commitment.
Enough with the woke. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I take that back.
To champion our conservative principles.
We are the party of law and order.
To call in the auditors.
We haven't yet decided whether we're going to call for the government to impose a mandatory test or vaccination.
And we will win the next election. Canada must not ignore the reality of climate change.
Why weren't Canadians vaccinated in January and February like everyone else?
Welcome, everybody, to Controlled Opposition, Episode 12. I'm your host, Greg Wycliffe. My guest tonight is really the reason why I'm even here to begin with and getting involved in politics. He's a former Conservative Party Member of Parliament. He was Industry Minister from 2006 to 2007 before being promoted to Foreign Affairs Minister. And he is now someone who left the Conservative Party and is the founder of the fastest growing political party in Canadian history. He's the leader of the People's Party of Canada. Some call him Mad Max, the one and only Maxime Bernier. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Thank you, Greg. Very well. I'm very pleased to be with you. And I must say that when I'm with you, I'm not mad.
Glad to hear it. So I really started this show, Controlled Opposition, Max, out of sheer disgust for the current Conservative Party of Canada and how Pierre Poilievre essentially took all this momentum, this anti-establishment momentum from the trucker convoy, and now people are back on the couch wanting to vote for the Conservative Party of Canada again. And he's really abandoned the trucker convoy, in my opinion. But when Poilievre was questioned about supporting the trucker convoy and does he challenge the Rouleau Commission, it was a shameful press conference, and he just completely deflected the question. So I thought, what better way to start this episode than ask you those same questions? So Maxime Bernier, do you regret supporting the trucker convoy, and do you agree with the conclusion of the Rouleau Commission invoking the Emergencies Act?
Answering your question, for me, it's pretty easy. I don't regret what I did the last 3 years. And, our party is the People's Party. And, I was with people fighting for our rights and against these mandates. And for me, being in Ottawa during that time, because as you know, I was in Ottawa these three weekends. Pierre Poilievre was not there. What he did a photo op with a trucker in his riding, and that was it. And, just to be on the right side for the beginning of his leadership contest. That being said, what I did, and I had the opportunity to meet great people, freedom fighters across the country and in Ottawa during the Freedom Convoy. That was a great time. And like I said before, for me, that was not a protest. That was a celebration, because we knew at that time that, because of that protest or celebration, we were so many people over there. We knew that something would change, and we were right. A couple of weeks after that, provinces started to lift their restrictions. starting by Saskatchewan, after that Alberta and other provinces. So that was a great time, and I believe that was the most successful disobedience, civil disobedience in our country, and because that was peaceful, and we were able to have what we were asking for, more freedom. It took a couple of weeks after that, but we were able to change the public opinion on COVID hysteria, and because of that, the provincial governments and the federal government decided to end the restrictions. So that's I don't regret that the first part of your question. The second one about the Rouleau Commission. I didn't expect a lot from that commission because, as you know, that judge was a Liberal staffer and, working with the Liberals when he was younger. And what he did, he did a political report just to, please the Prime Minister. So, that report for me is not in line with the reality that when I was in Ottawa, in the field with people, but my understanding is actually next week in Ottawa we will have a real hearing about that about the Emergencies Act and the fact that Trudeau decided to invoke that act. I believe that he didn't have any justification. If you read Section 1 and 2 of the Act, we were not in a wartime. We were not there to change the government. We were there only to protest and asking the government to stop to interfere and putting us, actually, for Trudeau, we were bad citizens, and he was dividing the population. We wanted that to end. But yes, in Ottawa next week, we'll have a hearing in from the court because the Rouleau reports, it's not binding, it's not a legal report. It's an opinion coming from a judge. Now we'll have the court. The court will have to decide if Justin Trudeau had the real reasons to invoke that act, and I will follow that for sure.
I'm excited to see that as well. This is a hearing to who is leading this hearing, this revision of the Emergencies Act. Yeah,
that's the federal court, and that would be next, I believe, Tuesday, and it is an organization that is fighting for constitutional rights that decided to do that. And the hearing will start, and we'll see. I believe that the mainstream media won't cover that like they did with the Rouleau Commission, but I will. And you just have to follow me on Twitter and on social media. I will follow that.
Amazing. And we are going to start talking about mass migration, something that you have been talking about for years now, kind of that gave you the whole Mad Max nickname from the beginning, the inception of the PPC. But before we get into that, I am going to ask you some tough questions, especially some tougher ones near the end. But I want to start because a lot of people have been grilling you for this when it comes to the World Economic Forum. And they say, Max attended the World Economic Forum. What were you doing there, Max? Are you friends with George Soros? How do we know that you're not compromised and working towards globalist policies as well?
Thank you for asking. And I was in Davos. In 2008. And I was there at that time because I was Foreign Affairs Minister at that time. And as you know, we were in war in Afghanistan, and our Canadian forces didn't have the equipment and the right equipment to do that war, and they still don't today. So my boss, Stephen Harper, the prime minister, asked me to try to find some help coming from other countries. So I decided that the big majority of the foreign affairs ministers will be at that World Economic Forum in Davos. And for me going there, that was a great opportunity to have meetings with them. And actually, I had over 30 meetings during 2 days. And my goal was to ask them to help us in Kandahar, in Afghanistan, with new equipment. And so I was successful, but I did not assist at the World Economic Forum. I was there because my counterparts, other foreign affairs ministers, were there. And, for one trip, I was able to have around 30 meetings. So that was pretty efficient. And after my meetings, I just left, and that's it. So I don't have any link with the World Economic Forum. I don't share their philosophy. The World Economic Forum is a kind of a think tank, a socialist think tank, and they want to impose their socialist point of view on different governments around the globe. And as you know, the People's Party, we have 4 principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, fairness, and respect. And we want more freedom for Canadians, and we don't want the state to tell us what to do. And as a country, we believe putting our country first and Canadian first. That means that, we don't want to have any other think tank or international organization that will tell us what to do. Our policies, public policies, will be for Canadian and done here in Canada. So I'm against the logic and the philosophy of the World Economic Forum. But not only that, also about the UN, we're the only party who will withdraw from the Paris Accord. We will withdraw from the Migration Compact. We will support the UN only when they will do something that it is in line with our philosophy and our values as Canadians. So what I'm telling you, we can save a lot of money because we won't participate in the majority of the PEP projects by the UN. But if you ask that question to Poilievre and the Conservative, they will still participate in the Paris Accord and the UN Compact on Migration. So about immigration, we are the only party, like you said before, that is against mass immigration, and we must control our immigration. But Trudeau and Poilievre and the Bloc Québécois and the Green, they want always more and more people. That's not our point of view.
Yeah, and not only are you opposing mass migration, you are the only guy who's talking about it. Maybe aside from some provincial Québécois MPs, you seem to be one of the only politicians who is even talking about it. It's very weird how the Liberals will only talk about it as if it's a good thing. The Conservatives will only talk about it as if it's a good thing. But I did want to go back to that really quick because, Pierre Poilievre, he's doing the same thing Trudeau does, it seems, which is like speaking out both sides of his mouth. He's saying, hey, we have nothing to do with the World Economic Forum. Sustainable development goals, I've never heard of this. And then he's like, we're going to have a zero carbon future. And he's, in lockstep with these kind of globalist policies. And it's very, very disturbing to see that from Poilievre. But, how is he getting away with this? How is Poilievre getting away with speaking out both sides of his mouth?
Yeah, actually, you're right about that. And that was pretty clear when he was running for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada. At that time, he was speaking a little bit like me. He was a real conservative. But Pierre Poilievre is more intelligent than O'Toole and Scheer, so he understood that to be the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, you need at least to speak like a conservative, and that's what he did. And actually, O'Toole did the same thing also. He said, I'm a true blue. But after that, a month after that, he switched to the left because we are living in a socialist era in Canada and in Western world right now. So to have the majority, That's only their goal, to please people. For them, they think that you need to speak like the Liberals. So O'Toole did that a couple of weeks after his leadership, but Poilievre is doing that slowly but surely. So he will have a platform that will please the big liberal cities across the country to have their support, because the only way to be elected for Poilievre is to have more seats in the GTA and more seats around Vancouver. So now his goal, because he is the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, his goal is to be the Prime Minister. And to do that, he will do some compromise. And yes, he first of all, he is not speaking like he was speaking during his leadership. And you will see the new Pierre Poilievre in a couple of months, and that will be a Poilievre that it's like Justin Trudeau on immigration, on not balancing the budget. It's important to say that, because if you're a conservative, usually you want to balance the budget and being fiscally responsible. But for Poilievre, it's not the case. He's saying, I want to cap the budget. What is that, capping the budget? Capping the budget is not cutting the budget. He wants to. So the budget today is about, $500 billion. And he likes the budget like that. He said, for each new spending, I will cut one spending. So what he wants to do, he wants to, spend in conservative pet projects instead of in liberals' pet projects with that big fat government. And because he is in the business to buy votes. That's his job. That is his job, to buy vote with money that he does not have. And that's why, he likes these deficits. And actually, the impact of these deficits right now, in 2015, the cost for our debt was $25 billion a year that we are throwing away just to pay the interest of our debt. $25 billion a year. It's about the budget of the national defense. Now, today, and at that time, Trudeau and Poilievre were saying it's okay, we can have that deficit because the interest rates are very low. But now the interest rates are raising, and the cost of that deficit, and they add more deficit, and now the cost of that debt is $44 billion a year. So imagine what we can do with $44 billion a year. Now we have to throw that away only to pay the interest on our debt. But what you can do with $44 billion, I'll tell you, you can actually give the healthcare transfer to provinces. That's the deal that Trudeau had, $42 billion a year. That's the deal that he had with provinces. So, and also you can with $44 billion. That's the GST. Sorry, that's the GST. The income at the federal level coming from the GST every year, it's $42 billion. So we can erase the GST tomorrow and use that money for our spending. To spend in our programs. So it's a huge cost, and that cost will go up. In 4 years, it will be at $50 billion. That's money that we are throwing through the windows without any benefit for Canadians. So and we are the only party that will balance the budget, and we can do that in 1 year. I said the deficit is $44 billion. So let's do the math a little bit. You cut corporate welfare, you save $10 billion over there. You cut the CBC, you save $1 billion over there, 11. You cut foreign aid, you can save another $5 billion there. So I'm at $16 billion. You cut the money that we are giving to Ukraine. It's another $2 billion. I'm at $18 billion. So it's easy when you have the courage of your conviction to achieve a balanced budget. And it's important to do that because we are entering into a recession. And actually, the federal government and Trudeau said it in the budget. He said, oh yeah, we will have a recession this year and we're not in a good fiscal position for a recession. So it will hurt because of irresponsible politicians in Ottawa who don't want to do what is good for the country. Poilievre is not fighting for what is right for our country. He is fighting for what is popular, to be elected. And it's not popular today to speak about, cutting the budget and balancing the budget. But it's so important. We must speak about that and explain that to Canadians. And the more we speak about it, the more support we will have. But Trudeau and Poilievre, they're not concerned about that. So what I'm saying to you, it's Poilievre is not a real conservative. He's only conservative in name. And the fact that he's promoting liberals and leftist ideas is giving credibility to the left.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hear what you're saying there, Max, but Poilievre does use this economic argument a lot. He claims to be balancing the budget as well. So are you saying that he doesn't actually have a plan to balance the budget and he's just saying that?
No, it's important. He won't say that he will balance the budget. He never said that. And what he's saying, he said, I will cap the budget. That means he likes the budget like that. He will cap the spending like that. But he said also, I will pass a law for each new spending, each new dollar of spending, I will cut one spending. So what he will do, the budget will be big, but the liberal spending, I believe that he doesn't agree with that. So he will cut the liberal spending and replace that by conservative spending. So he is in line with a big fat budget. His position is to cap the budget. That's what he's saying. I want to cap the budget like that. But we must cut, that budget is 80% bigger than what it was before, before the COVID hysteria. So the budget grew by $125 billion from 2015 to today. So yes, we must cut and have a smaller government in Ottawa, because if you cut the budget, you'll have a smaller government, you'll have more freedom. And Poilievre likes to speak about freedom. But the real freedom will come when you have a smaller government in Ottawa that won't interfere in your day-to-day life and will give you back your own money in your own pockets. And that's why we need to balance the budget. And we can do that in 1 year. It's easy. We can do that in 1 year if you have the courage to do the right thing. And after that, you can lower taxes to Canadians and giving them back their money.
Yeah, and well, to do that, we need to start getting you back in the House of Commons to get near those levers of power. And Max, I'm a little concerned because, in my personal opinion, from where I'm standing, every time that you focus on talking about the budget, every time that you focus on talking about the economy, I feel like you're giving a lot of people a reason to actually just support Pierre. Because Pierre, that's his main thing. Like that's what we always harp on in the show, which is Pierre is like the price of milk. Money and the cost of things is the only thing that's important. And I guess, what I want to encourage you to do is why doesn't the PPC focus more on impactful social and cultural issues? Because this is where the PPC can really differentiate itself from Pierre.
Yeah, I understand your point of view. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. And so what I'm telling you is Poilievre, he won't be able to, when he'll be in government, because he's looking at polling and focus group, and he will need a vote in Ontario and Vancouver to win. So what I'm telling you is taking for granted your vote, the vote of the real conservative, and he will go to the left by going to the left. So that's why if you vote for us and you have PPC candidates elected, we will support Poilievre when he'll be a conservative, when he will be honest, and we won't support him when he won't be a conservative. We will support him when he'll do what we have in our platform. So speaking about that, it's important because I want people to understand if Poilievre doesn't have the courage to cut because it may not be popular, we will help him to do that because we will support him and in the House. So that's important I believe for Canadians. We are their insurance policy that Poilievre will be a conservative if he's a prime minister. If not, he will do like Stephen Harper. What is the legacy of Stephen Harper after 9 years? Zero. Niet. Trudeau undo everything the first year. There's no legacy there. And I was a conservative at that time. We had that majority in 2011. And I said, okay, we have a majority. Now we'll do conservative reform. No, we didn't do anything. There's no legacy. The only thing Harper can say, I dismantled the wheat board out west. That's what I did. That's the only legacy. And I cannot find other legacy. So Poilievre will be the same. We need to be there, like the Reform Party was there when they had Chrétien and Martin. And Preston Manning was asking for balancing the budget every day. And because of that, he was able to change the public opinion. And because of that, Chrétien and Martin looked at the poll and said, oh, now we have a majority to balance the budget. We will do it. So we need to be there to be sure that Poilievre will be a real conservative.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, Max. And I really feel like there's more pressing matters, especially to conservatives and things that you do talk about as well. You've been talking a lot about, the drag time story hour and how, it's just preying upon children and this sort of thing. But it's something that we talked about earlier, but we didn't kind of directly say. The trucker convoy was about vaccine mandates. And Pierre Poilievre, in his recent press conferences, he couldn't even say the word vaccine mandate. It was very, very creepy the way in which he has ignored this. He's ignored the absolutely devastating consequences of lockdowns by the government. He doesn't talk about that either. And on top of that, he doesn't talk about mass migration. And I feel like these are really the things that not only is the cost of living bad, but like there's so many problems that are stacking upon each other. People are despairing. People are, on drugs. It's really, really terrible. And I think that Pierre does not offer any real solutions. He kind of offers this kind of fake solution in many of these causes. But let's get into the mass migration topic here. This is a tweet from you recently this month. Canada welcomed more than 1 million newcomers last year, including 437,000 immigrants, 608,000 non-permanent residents, many of whom will still stay permanently. This is clearly mass immigration. All parties, including Poilievre's fake conservatives, agree with it. That is insane. That is crazy. So I first want to ask, the housing crisis. Obviously cost of living, straining our healthcare system. There's a lot, but in your opinion, aside from the big numbers of the people coming in, what do you think are the worst consequences of mass migration for the country of Canada?
You just said it. Housing and healthcare. 1 million people last year. That's the population of Nova Scotia. If we have another 1 million people this year, we'll have a new Nova Scotia in Canada. When you are a population of 38 million people, that is mass immigration. And the problem with that, because Poilievre is okay with it, and and Poilievre, Trudeau, and all these establishment leaders are okay with it. But when you have mass immigration like that, this last year we had 465,000 immigrants. You add to that the non-permanent resident, and you add to that foreign students. So that's why you have a million people that came to Canada last year. So these people must have a roof. And so that's why we have a housing problems. The cause of the housing challenge that we have in our country, the housing crisis. When I'm speaking about that, I'm speaking about the cost of a house, but the cost of a renting also, the cost of an apartment, all that is going up because the cause is we have more people and that are coming to Canada. To stop that, the real solution is to stop mass immigration. But Poilievre won't say that. He said we need to build more houses, but actually, it's not the solution. You won't have time to do that. These people are coming every year, and the amount is growing and growing and growing. You need to stop mass immigration, and like that, you will solve the housing crisis that we have in our country. But not only that, we have a healthcare crisis also. You have waiting times for surgeries that are months, and you have these people, they will need health care, and they're going to hospital also. They're coming here to eat, to be able to participate in our society. But yes, they will be sick, and they can be sick, and they will have to use our health care services. So that's another, and as you know, we have a socialist healthcare system that is not working, and we need to change that, and we have a solution for that. But that mass immigration is a problem, and like you said, I said that in 2019 and in 2021, and that will be the same thing at the last campaign. That's the huge difference between us and Poilievre and Trudeau and the mainstream party. We are doing politics by conviction with ideas, and we're not looking at the poll today if something is popular or not. We know that we have the best vision for this country, and the more we speak about that, the more people will support us. That's what we believe. And actually, if you look in the past, we start the party at 0%, our first election 1.6%, and now 5%. And yes, this party is growing, like you said in the introduction. So what we are proposing to Canadians, it's real solutions and bold reforms to regain our country. And that's a huge difference with Poilievre. Poilievre is not fighting for what is right for us in our country. He's fighting for what is popular, regardless of the facts, regardless of the science, regardless of the reality. And Poilievre is not a leader. Poilievre is a follower. He's following the public opinion. And a leader is to lead the public opinion and to have a vision. We have a vision, we are leading, and I believe that Canadians are intelligent, and they will understand. The more we speak, they will understand, they will come with us, and they will support us to regain our country.
Absolutely. And you are so right with having a vision. And we know this is a vision that Canadians, especially conservative-minded Canadians, want, because Pierre Poilievre has stolen part of your vision to basically win the leadership. He's, defund the CBC. That's your line.
Yeah, but I'm not scared about that, because he did that only for a short time to win the leadership, like I said. So just wait when he'll have his platform. Actually, I was listening Stephen Harper last week at a conference in Toronto, Strong and Free, and he said the role of Poilievre is only to critic Trudeau and not to present any ideas, any platform. He said, he will have time to do that during the election. So he doesn't want to do it because he will need to do polling and focus group, and what is popular in Toronto may not be popular in Calgary. So that's why Poilievre, won't tell us what he wants to do. He will do that couple of weeks before the election, and at that time, that will be the reality. Canadians will wake up and say, oh, Poilievre and Trudeau, that's about the same about climate change. Like you said, he wants to have a net zero target before 2050, like the Liberals, but he won't impose a carbon tax, more regulations. But we all know that when you impose regulations on businesses, that's a cost, and the cost is is going to consumers. So that's Poilievre. For us, we're saying, we will withdraw from the Paris Accord. So we won't do anything at the federal level. The climate is changing and will always change. And that's it. If it's so important and some provinces want to do something with that, go for it. They can do it. But at the federal level, we won't have any policy on that, or we won't spend any money on that.
Yeah. And, back to mass migration, it's ironic because they talk about sustainable development goals. But as you were saying earlier, this influx of people, 1 million people a year, a Nova Scotia a year, is clearly not sustainable. And I think it's ironic here because this is an article that came out this month talking about a development of building homes, right? Feds warn Ontario they could shut down development near Rouge Park. Ford not too concerned. Ontario's plans to build housing near a massive national park could be shut down if a new study shows a negative impact on biodiversity and at-risk species. A species of butterfly. So they don't want to build new homes because they're worried about a species of butterfly. What about bringing 1 million people in a year? They say that they're concerned about the environment. What about the implications of 1 million people coming to Canada? How is that going to affect the environment? How is that going to affect the species of butterfly?
Yeah, actually, you're absolutely right. And what happened also last year with the Roxham Road in Quebec, we had 39,000 illegal migrants who crossed the border in Quebec, who crossed illegally the border in Quebec. And why Trudeau decided to solve that? Because in the beginning, it was only a Quebec problem. But at least I must admit that the Premier of Quebec, Mr. Legault, had a good idea. He said, I'm going to put them in a bus and drive them in Ontario, in Niagara Falls. And he did it. And now that was a Canadian problem. And I know that in Niagara Falls, now they're concerned because the hotels over there are all with migrants, and the season, the tourist seasons will start in a month, and there's no hotel rooms available for that. So that's a big concern, and now Trudeau decided to close that loophole. And I asked for that for the last 5 years that we must. I was in the House at that time, and I asked a question to the Liberals about it. At least they did it, so that's good. But they waited too long for that.
Yeah, I mean, too little, too late. And as we were saying before, it's not just people coming over Roxham Road. There's family reunification. There's foreign workers. There's international students. There's so many things. And we talk a lot on this show about self-respect. Like having respect for yourself as a Canadian. And there are more and more examples of newcomers coming to Canada and not having respect for this country and not having respect for these institutions. And it truly is sickening. Of course, not everyone who comes is disrespectful, but certain people really, truly are. And I'm going to show you an example here of somebody who is an international student in Windsor, and he is going to food banks and basically stealing the food at food banks, and he can clearly afford food. So I'm just going to play it here.
Good morning, guys. Welcome back. तो गाइज अभी हम लोग जा रहे हैं फ्री फूड लेने के लिए, ठीक है। ये अभी हम लोग पीछे खड़े होंगे उनसे। लेट्स सी अभी स्टार्ट। वहाँ पे आपको लेना है। मैं आपको डॉक्यूमेंट्स के बारे में घर जाके बताता हूँ। तो लाइन देख सकते हो कहाँ जो पेपर पड़ा था, उसके ऊपर आप लोग को पासपोर्ट, आपका नाम देना पड़ेगा, आपका ये, और जा रही है, आप देख सकते हो कहाँ तक जा रही है, स्टार्टिंग तक वहाँ तक दही का टावर है। देन यहाँ पे जो दिख रहा है ये अंकल बीन्स है। फिर ये पूरे मिल्क है गाइस, ये 6 जो दिख रहे हैं आपको पूरे मिल्क के पैकेट्स हैं। ये सारे ब्रेड्स हैं, ठीक है। ये एक ब्रेड अच्छे खासे प्राइस में मिलता है आप लोगों को। यहाँ पे मिल जाती है विंडसर के अंदर। अब आई डोंट नो कनाडा में हर जगह पे ये होता है कि खाली विंडसर में होता है, बट यू गेट इट एवरी ट्यूजडेज।
A lot of people see this, Maxime, and are really disgusted. Like, did you see how long the lineup was for the food bank? And this guy thinks it's okay to get free money, free food. And the thing is, like, this, like, I've looked into this now. This guy is on YouTube. This video is still up. It has 255,000 views. And so this is a monetized video. He's making money, like thousands of dollars of money just from this video alone. And there's comments here of like how disrespectful this is. This money is for people who need it, not for you. He's wearing this nice jacket. But, you know, what do you say to something like this, Maxime? And what do you propose as a solution? Is there anything that the PPC offers to try and, you know, instill Canadian values when you get here? Please respect our food banks, for example. Is that too much to ask?
Yeah, absolutely. The food bank are for people who need it, and he doesn't. I can look at it like, you know, he's a foreign student, and foreign student, it's very expensive. You know, if he's a foreign student, it's because he has some money actually. That being said, what do we want to do? It's part of our platform. What we want to do is to be sure to have an interview with each new immigrant that will come to our country, like we did a couple of years ago. So, and asking them the question, you know, do you agree with, you know, men and women are equal before the law, that we have a charter of rights, and speaking about Canadian values and having a nice discussion with that person. And that must be a test. We want people who will share our values, and that's important because it's a privilege to be Canadian, and now it is not with Trudeau and Poilievre and the mass immigration.
Yeah. And for those who might think, oh, Greg, that's just an isolated incident. This is a second example of the exact same thing, which is, I believe, an international student making a video about, hey, I'm saving money. I'm saving money on food by robbing a food bank and completely disrespecting the institutions of Canada. But
when you're doing that, you must think about, you know, people who need that food, and that's not you. So it's disgraceful, and shame on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like this recent tweet from you. When you immigrate to Canada, we Canadians expect you to fully join our society, not just live as a foreigner among us. That means leaving behind your old political allegiances and tribal conflicts, not try to get us involved in them, and focus on your home, Canada. Remember, you are Canadian now.
Yeah.
Really,
be proud. Be proud. You are Canadian, and that's great. Yeah, I understand that it was a very difficult decision to leave your country and coming to another country. Yeah, it's a tough decision, and you left behind people in your family. But then you decided that, and we are welcoming you. But come and be Canadians, and sometimes there's some conflict in other countries, and they want us to be part of that, like the war in Ukraine. You know, Poilievre is supporting that because there's about 1 million Canadians from Ukraine descent. But they are Canadians now. So you are living in Canada. We don't have to be part of that war. It is not in our national security interest. And we gave to Ukraine $5 billion the last 2 years. So we must stop that. And we're going to add another $2 billion this year. That was in the budget. So $7 billion together for two territories that were on different jurisdictions the last 100 years. So it is not our war. We must not be part of that. But I'm the only one who is saying that. Poilievre and Trudeau, they're the same on that also. So that's why I'm saying the Conservative with Poilievre, it's a LibCon party. That's the same thing on the most important issues for the future of our country.
Absolutely. And when it comes to Ukraine, you'll see the infamous photo of Pierre and Justin wearing the exact same costume. You know, they both do the same Mr. Dress Up act and send billions of our money overseas to help Canadians somehow. But I did want to say, you know, if you didn't know, Ukraine apparently is 60% unvaccinated. So Pierre or Justin, if you're watching, maybe we should be sending, instead of money, sending the vaccines, the excess vaccine, because we know how much you guys love that, right?
A vaccine that does not work As you know, we were right 2 years ago when we said that. It's not. It's all that was based on discrimination and segregation, not on science, because everybody were able to catch that virus and spread that virus, vaccinated or not.
Absolutely. It's the unvaccinated were right. We were right about that. The truckers were right. And yet this corrupt legacy media seems to give us no credibility. And again, this conservative party doesn't want to talk about it. They just don't want to talk about that. But speaking to what this tweet you just said about, you are a Canadian now, leave your tribal conflicts behind. This is something that a friend of mine found that I think is like really funny. Well, not funny, but like really disturbing. This is a rental on Kijiji. Okay. It's in Northwest Brampton, as you can see here. And look at the description. We're Brahim family looking for Gujarati student working person. So, are you familiar with the caste system in India?
Yeah, a little bit.
So essentially, the Brahmin family is it's one of the castes, and essentially these renters from India are being very specific of who they want to rent to. They are coming to Canada and discriminating and saying, we only want to rent to these type of people. So I think it's very funny because, especially yourself, you're talking about mass migration, talking about the concerns of how, social cohesion, and they call you racist. Well, guess what? We're actually importing racism. We're actually importing the racism of people who are fundamentally discriminatory from the caste system in India, or another good example is Somalia, where they have this very, very intense clan system that's like a whole hierarchical thing, depending on what clan you're from. So I think you're right on the money there. And I mean, I guess I kind of asked this earlier, but like, what would you say to somebody who, they continue to call you racist? Because I know that you got smeared by Warren Kinsella, and you went to court and said, I am not racist, but then the judge just still slammed his gavel and said, well, you're still, sorry, we can't confirm that you're unracist. So I want to ask, Max, what are you going to do next time they call you racist?
But I just want to answer that about I sue Kinsella about that. What the judge said, he said, the most important here is the freedom of speech. And Kinsella has the right to say what he said. And so that was based on that. The judge didn't say that I'm a racist or not. He just said that Kinsella has the right to say that, and you cannot stop him by saying things like that. That is freedom of speech. So that was the base of the decision. So that being said, I don't have to prove myself that I'm not a racist. Look at what I did in politics and before politics. And so people who are saying that it's only to discredit me, but it's not working. The party is growing and it will grow. People understand that discussion about immigration and actually, that the conservative paid Kinsella about $60,000 to discredit the PPC. So they didn't like us. They didn't want us to be part of the national debate, and that was not successful. But that being said, the Kinsella was saying that because actually that our position on immigration. But, we had that discussion in Quebec long time ago. As you know, you can hear with my accent, I'm coming from Quebec. I'm a Francophone. And it's important over there to protect our society, the only Francophone society in America. So it's important. And Quebec has its own government and protecting the language. So we had this discussion about immigration all the time in Quebec. They want people that will come in Quebec and will speak French first. If not, we will teach them French, and we want them to integrate in the Francophone community in Quebec. And actually, at the last election in Quebec, you had 3 political parties that were saying, okay, I want 50,000 immigrants. Another party were saying 25,000, another 60,000. And nobody said that the party who said 25% was a racist party or they were racist because of that. We're used to have that debate. In English Canada in 2019, that was the first time. They were not used to that. And now I can tell you that it's more common when you have, 50% of the Canadians that are saying in a survey that there's, 500,000 people a year of immigrants, it's too much. You can have that discussion when you have the Global Mail that wrote, I believe 2 months ago, a piece on the number of immigrants, and they were saying, "Oh, we are not racist, but we believe that 500,000 immigrants a year, it's too much." So I said that in 2019, and they were saying I'm a racist for that, and now they agree with the position that we have. So now you can have that debate, and I think we will have that debate, and I believe that we will win that debate. But Poilievre and Trudeau, they're too scared, and also they're for mass immigration for votes. That's important to say. There's some ridings in this country when you have a lot of immigrants, and they can decide who's going to be elected or not. And these people want to have more people coming on their reunification of family. They want to have their uncle, their grandmom, granddad coming to Canada. And that's why Trudeau, is saying yes to that, to have their support. And same thing for Poilievre. But we won't play that game. We won't pander to anybody.
Yeah, and you make a great point there. The importing liberal votes. This argument has been made in the United States as well, but it's certainly true in Canada that people, newcomers come to Canada and they're told liberal, liberal, liberal. You better vote red. You better vote red. Liberal, liberal, liberal. And, the disgusting thing about that is the way in which the Liberal Party instills Canadian values into newcomers. Well, they don't. And in many ways, they say, come on down. Welcome to this all-inclusive hotel. Take as much food as you like from the food banks. We don't care. We're not going to interview you. We do whatever the heck you want. And the disgusting part is, once again, why do the Conservatives think it's a good idea not to oppose this? Because they're probably not coming over here to vote Conservative. And they're people who don't respect, in many respects, they don't necessarily respect our culture. It's a huge risk. It undermines the integrity of our nation. And the so-called Conservative Party wants nothing to do with even talking about it.
Yeah, but why Poilievre is doing that? Because Harper did that in 2011, and with Jason Kenney, to be able to have a majority government. And Jason Kenney was over there all the time in different communities. So that's their goal. They think, Poilievre think that he can do the same and have the support in the big GTA and near Vancouver to be in government. That's only a question of being able to be in power in government.
Yeah. So I know you have to get going soon, so I'm going to ask some more intense questions. You've been in the House of Commons before. You have been a minister before. Why does it, how cynical is it? It just seems like there's these politicians are willing to sell out our country. Have you seen this firsthand? What does this look like?
When I was in the House, they're just interested to be elected and re-elected. They don't have any conviction. And for them, the future of our nation is not so important. The most important is how people will react today or tomorrow. So that's why we need to change that and have a principled politicians that will lead the country toward a better future.
We talk a lot about criticizing Pierre Poilievre on this show, and he's come after you. He's accused you of being associated with the World Economic Forum. All these attacks, and I really think, Max, you could be attacking Pierre even more. I think you could be try to make his life even more difficult. Is there any reason that you're not attacking him more? Are you still thinking that you might go back to the Conservative Party?
I will, but when the time will come, step by step, I'm doing that. That's part of the plan, but I'm more positive. I like to present our idea positively, and that's what I will do, but I can do both also. But I just tell you, I have to leave. I have a meeting soon, so I hope we'll be able to have another discussion soon.
Absolutely. I do have one last question, and this is a real, I'm really going to come at you here. Strategy to win is important. All of your ideas are so important to win and to get you in the House of Commons. Yeah. You've been running candidates all across the country, 300 plus ridings. How Is this really a good strategy to get somebody in? I mean, why not focus all of your efforts on one riding as opposed to spreading the PPC's efforts too thin?
That's a good question. For me personally, I believe that I will focus on one riding. I'm looking to run maybe in a by-election in Manitoba. I will be able to take that decision soon. So I will focus there, and I believe that I can win, and that will be the beginning of a big change.
A by-election in Manitoba? Really?
Maybe.
Oh, how soon is that going to be?
I don't know. I will have to decide before the end of July.
Amazing. All right.
So I have to go. I have another meeting.
All right. Thank you so much, Maxime Bernier. Thanks for being on the show. And we look forward to seeing you on Twitter and more of your videos calling out the Conservative Party, calling out Pierre Poilievre for being a coward. So thank you so much for being on the show. And it's okay, Canada, to demand higher standards.
Thank you.